Thank you very much to the organizers also for inviting me here. It's my first non-academic conference and it's very interesting. I've learned a lot and I really like to learn a little bit more about different experiences in different universities. And I've already learned a few tricks over the last few days. So this is a bit different from what you will have seen at the exhibition over there in that I'm not trying to sell you a specific product. In fact, what I'm going to show you today is entirely free at this time, and you can come home and use it straight away. It's something that started as a kind of bottom-up movement in the maths department in Aberystwyth University, and then we got together with Nigel and started discussing and developing this further. And roughly speaking, the aim of the project was to focus on one very particular issue, which some of you might have and some of you might not care about at all, which is how to replace blackboards and whiteboards with something slightly more flexible and useful while still making everyone happy. That means including the academic staff. And so this is what I would like to show to you today. So how we do teaching at the moment in mathematics using pen-enabled tablets. So the outline of my talk, I'm sure you know this, so I'll keep it short so we have some time to demo it. But basically I want to show you what the advantages of PowerPoint and Blackboard and versus Blackboard and Whiteboard are from a mathematics perspective or from a science perspective. I also teach physics, for example. And so maybe the science perspective puts a slightly different twist on these, but I'm sure you'll be familiar with most of these advantages and disadvantages. I've actually added an advantage yesterday, which is quite interesting, which I'll talk about as well. And then I'll talk about how we do pen-enabled tablet teaching to combine the best parts of both worlds with almost no disadvantages. I've evaluated that on several cohorts now, so I'll give a bit of data, how well it worked with the students, what they felt about it. And then I'll conclude by telling you what kind of impact it had on my colleagues in the maths department and also on a wider perspective in other departments in the university. And I'll finish with a demo and also telling you what the future is. So you see, we've been trying to focus on getting one particular task right. That doesn't mean that we can't extend it, but I often feel that in digital technologies there's a risk of trying to do too many things at the same time and not getting any of them right. So you'll see what I present today is very basic. It's just a whiteboard, but it has a lot of potential. But I think before we can actually develop that, we need to go in that direction a little bit further. Anyway, so what are the advantages of PowerPoint? Well, first of all, I can project on large screens in Aberystwyth University. Actually, in many of the lecture theaters refurbished by Nigel, we now have 2 screens. I can face the audience. I can make eye contact. I don't have to face the wall while I write things. I can give a PDF handout at the end of the talk. I can scroll back to previous lectures. That's something trivial unless you're used to whiteboard teaching where you can't do that. I can record the lectures. For example, we use Panopto. I can livecast them. I can alt-tab to other content. That's again something that you wouldn't even notice that it's an advantage of PowerPoint unless you're used to whiteboard teaching. If I had a whiteboard now and I wanted to change, say, to demonstrating some software, I would have to change the lighting. There's no whiteboard here anyway. I would have to switch off the projector. That takes time and it lets the audience become distracted. It's multidisciplinary, so for most disciplines, I think PowerPoint works pretty well, with a few exceptions, mostly mathematics and physics. And it's something that I realized yesterday is also quite hangover robust. Because no matter how hungover you are, at least you've got the slides and you can work along them, right? And you can turn around and kind of see what you're talking about. Now, this is how we do teaching traditionally. We have a whiteboard or a blackboard. Most people love blackboards even better than whiteboards. It's simple. You have some wizards with a piece of chalk. No barrier between me and the students. Body language. I know that if I wrote like this, that wouldn't be very good body language. On the other hand, I can point directly where I write. You don't have to choose whether to look at the PowerPoint or to look at me. One thing that people often overlook is the high resolution issue and the large space issue. Mathematicians love to write formulas. We usually work with, let's say, 9 meters whiteboards, and we start on the left-hand side at the beginning of the lecture, and we end up on the right-hand side. And we need, quite often, all the previous written things to refer to. So we need high resolution and a large writing space. It's often noted by the students that the pace of whiteboard lectures or blackboard lectures is more convenient to them because they have more time to think. It will take the lecturer time to write something down rather than giving you kind of equations out of a can on a PowerPoint slide. What I think is the most important part for me, and I can't demonstrate this in this talk because I don't have enough time, is that you develop the lectures in the moment together with the audience. It's in particular in mathematics, which is a very deep subject, you really want to show the thought process that leads to these equations. The actual equations hardly matter. And so if I wrote them yesterday and I present them to you, I wouldn't be able to follow my own thought process. It's almost like you need to get in the state of mind and develop it in real time, and that's what the students can learn. And also it allows you to be interactive, so we can develop a lecture together. I know that things like flipping the classroom and so on are very trendy nowadays, but essentially I would argue that maths teachers have been doing it for centuries. Good maths teachers start with one equation and base the whole lecture through an interaction with the audience, with questions and answers. And the outcome of the lecture will be decided by the audience as well. Anyway, you know this. So we've tried to bring these two things together by using a pen-enabled tablet, which is around 240 pounds at the moment. You can use a Galaxy Note, which is the name of this device. You can use Microsoft Surface. And the main thing that you want is a tablet with precise pen input. So, I mean, as you can probably tell by my terrible handwriting, I have written these slides with this tablet, but you can write small font. I use an application which is called Write by a Californian company called Stylus Labs. And I've been in touch with the developer over the last year. This application at the moment is available for Linux, Android, Mac, and Windows. So it will work on any of these devices. iOS is in the coming, but that might still take years. So I wouldn't hold my breath on it at the moment. The main thing is that this app allows me to share a whiteboard between several devices. What I usually do is one device will be the one that I hold in my hand, and the other one will be the teaching PC supplied by the university. So I will run the app on the university Windows machine as well as on my Android tablet, and the app will then transmit the strokes, which I write here, to the screen. You'll see that in the demo. The app has a particular teaching mode, which was developed by the developer in collaboration with me. So he probably thought of it as mostly a science collaborative tool where you could have a science discussion with a colleague far away over Skype and at the same time share a whiteboard. But for teaching, you have slightly different demands, for instance, having a pointer device and synchronizing pages and so on. So we've developed this together. One thing that comes as a no-brainer when you have this technology is that I can actually screencast what I write on the whiteboard in my lecture simply using Panopto on the teaching PC. I can just record it. I can hand out a PDF at the end of the lecture to the students. And also it's very easy to create teaching videos this way. I will just talk to myself at home in front of the tablet and record it to Panopto from the actual device. So all these kind of things are things that we are doing now and that are quite well received by the students. So let me show you how I evaluated that. The first round I tested it was on a quite small course with 30 students in their third year. And at the end of the year, I asked them what did they like better, a whiteboard teaching or a tablet teaching. Now the good thing about this cohort was that they'd already seen me teaching on the whiteboard the year before, and it was almost exactly the same cohort, so it gave me a nice opportunity to have the same sample of people. And I asked them, is the tablet much worse or is it much better than the whiteboard? And these are math students. And the average is 4.5 with a standard deviation of 0.7. So, by far the tablet was perceived as superior. I asked them, what did they like better, tablet or PowerPoint teaching? And again, by far, they preferred the tablet teaching, this particular digital whiteboard teaching. So that really encouraged me. And if you don't like statistics, because statistics can only lie, actually when you go through the evaluations, you will see that not a single student preferred the PowerPoint or the whiteboard over what I was doing. So there was no single exception. Now, what is maybe more interesting, to look at the comments that people wrote. So they said it's clearer instantly online because of the PDF. The lecture is out of the way, I'm not obstructing it. It's easier to access and to show at the end when asking questions. That meant that I could actually scroll back to previous things, even previous lectures. I can read it better because it's bigger. It removes the impersonal feel of PowerPoint. I think we've all been there. It adds saving to whiteboard, combines advantages. It just seems to work well. That's kind of the main message that I used to get. I can use 2 projectors rather than just 1 whiteboard. That's again if you're teaching to bigger groups. And maybe the final thing that I can't really demonstrate now because I'm not using the tablet to actually give this talk is that I can walk around. I don't have to stand in front of the whiteboard. I can walk back, and I'll do that in the demo session anyway. But you always have the weak students in the back. So if you want to engage with them, you can actually go to them and present part of the lecture from there. Since then, that's kind of 2 years ago now, I've just switched and I've taught all courses this way. I see no reason whatsoever to ever touch a whiteboard or blackboard again. PowerPoint I've never touched anyway. I get very much positive feedback on all sorts of levels, and that means from colleagues, from people who did my teaching observations, from other departments, and most importantly from the students. Now, finally, let me talk a little bit about what impact that had in my department. So I think what makes this nice, and I know I shouldn't change style inside of a talk, but I just wanted to show you how you could also give something which is more close to a blackboard if you really like that kind of teaching. It supports really a large number of teaching styles. So you see the first 2 slides I gave were almost PowerPoint style. So if you prefer something in between, where you have first PowerPoint, then handwritten stuff, PowerPoint again, and so on, you can do that. So you can kind of merge all 3 teaching technologies in one device. It's easy to use. So that was something that was important to me, because you know that mathematicians are good with numbers, but not necessarily very good with computers. So I've kind of stripped down the Android version on this to the bare features so that there's nothing that distracts you, or almost nothing. So I can basically hand this to a lecturer and say, go and teach, and they wouldn't need to do much. They wouldn't need to learn much. So how far did I get with that? Well, we are a very small department, I have to say. We have 11 members of staff. 3 of them, excluding me, have now completely switched to this. 2 of them bought their own devices because they liked it so much. We have 1 device available for loan in the maths department, which the other one picks up, and he's probably considering to buy one himself as well. And that was not because it was pushed from the top. It was because they were interested in it. They saw it was easy to do. They tried it, and they liked it. There's an investment in our institute coming now where we're going to buy 30 more tablets so that everyone who wants to teach this way can actually use it. And I've had many requests from other departments, particularly from the language department, European languages, where they also appear to need whiteboards more than in other departments. And they want to use this technology as well. So finally, let me say what is the future about. This is already a little bit interactive. So what I've been testing is, I've asked a question, and rather than asking a student member to come to the whiteboard and explain in front of everyone, which is not feasible when you have students crammed in big lecture theaters, I would go to the student and pass them the tablet, and they would then write it down without even having to stand up. And they would see their own handwriting appearing in the official lecture notes of the course. You can share sessions with this. So you can have, if you had more than one device, and we'll see that in the demo in a second, you can actually have several people contributing to one slide simultaneously. That's something I haven't explored in my teaching yet. So this is, again, because I want to keep things simple for the time being. What I find coolest is the teaching mode. So in the teaching mode, I can set things up so that whatever I write is transmitted, but whatever you're writing is not. So that means that if you are a student and you have one of these devices, I can write the lecture notes on your device. You don't even have to look at the screen anymore. You can annotate them in real time, personalize them, and at the end of your lecture, not only you didn't have to write anything down that I wrote, but you have your personal annotations. And you know that there's a, I don't know if that's general, but if you take notes in mathematics lectures, if you write down everything, you'll get like wrist pain, and you won't have time to think. On the other hand, if all the notes are provided, then you're usually falling asleep. Maths can be very boring. So for me, that cuts a point in the middle where you can actually, I write the basics for you, but you add whatever you think about it. So I think that has a lot of development, but of course it means that I need more devices. So I've applied for a bigger grant now as well to bring in quite a substantial amount of tablets to our uni, so that I would be able to hand them out to bigger cohorts and test them. Another thing which I think the main limitation of this current method is still what I told you in the beginning, that mathematicians love to have a big writing space. Because essentially I'm limited here now by the resolution of the projector and by the size of its projection surface. So what I'm actually hoping is to say use 2 projectors and start writing on one of them and continue writing on the other. That sounds very easy, but technologically it might not be so easy yet. So I'm kind of working on getting that right. Right, so I wanted to leave some time for the demo, so that brings me to my conclusion. So finally, I think we're there. We can get rid of the whiteboard and the blackboard. And I think that's because only now these devices have reached the resolution of handwriting and the quality of handwriting where they can actually compete with the whiteboard. It's almost like digital photography. You know, in the beginning, you had some enthusiasts using it, but the resolution was really horrible. And only when the resolution was good enough did the professionals move over. So if you have mathematicians in the department, in the university, think of them as the professionals who really rely on high-resolution handwriting, and they can't get away without that. So I've seen a lot of really bad smartboards in the past that didn't manage to supply this kind of things, and I've seen kind of finger painting style things similar to what you would be able to do on the iPad. This is not. This is replacing a pen. It has higher accuracy than a natural pen, I would say. It is network efficient because it only transmits the strokes. You'll see lots of solutions that will try to submit everything, and that causes a lot of network traffic. And I've tried that in the beginning using Miracast, but I have had stability issues, in particular when there were many students using Wi-Fi during my lectures. This one here will perfectly work via a mobile phone link. It doesn't use much traffic. And then finally, I think the way that this is working, and that's something that I'm particularly proud of, is it's bottom up. You know, academics can be very stubborn, and this is kind of people seeing me doing it and copying it rather than a university-wide policy which now forces everyone to use this. And I think that's something to keep in mind, of particularly with mathematicians. We are very, very stubborn in our teaching methods. So we are offering a constructive solution. So that's the end of my talk, and I'd like to thank you for your attention. And in particular, I would like to thank Nigel also for his support and the interactions we've had. Thank you. So what we'll do now is I'll take the questions during the demo, and that will give you an idea how this thing is working. The demo is going to be Sudoku, so I need one guinea pig. Who knows how to do Sudokus?
I do.
You do? Right. There you go. You can start with the Sudoku in a second. There's the pen. And because we've got such a fantastic person here doing the...
You didn't ask me to do Sudoku.
So you don't have to do the Sudoku.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we've got two people writing on the same surface at the same time. So just go ahead, and hopefully it should work.
Is there a question live? No? Here we go.
Something happening?
Yeah, we've got two right correct ones.
Okay. What about over there?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
No.
Okay, let me check. So,
Oh yeah, we're opening.
okay. So you can solve the Sudoku, you can draw something, and in the meantime I can take some questions if there are any questions.
When you're doing a kind of more, basically when you're using it as a whiteboard substitute and you're writing, is latency, as in is the speed? Is there any delay?
At the moment there's a substantial delay because I've had to set up my own server in here just to be sure. Usually the delay is only because it will only transmit at the end of the stroke. Because if you make a very long line and you only lift the pen at the end, then that's the only source of latency that is noticeable. I don't find it laggy.
So if you were doing joined up writing again, you're not lifting the pen, it won't render it till the end of the word. So.
Right, yeah, so if I make a very long spiral here, you won't see it until I lift it.
We did. We saw it.
You must be on a new release of software.
Oh,
Is it because you're the master?
interesting. That could be because I've never actually tried it with my Windows tablet. It's a new tablet that I just bought last week. It might be different on the Android implementation.
It
Okay,
is
that's
actually, you can see that each stroke comes out complete.
okay. But I mean, for me, that's not a big issue.
No, okay. And you said you've got 11 colleagues in the department?
Yes.
Yeah. And 3 are on board.
4 including me. Yes.
4 including you. What's going to change the others? What's their reason for sticking?
Well, I mean, it's only been over the summer that the other colleges have been offered the choice to join. There are some who told me they would never use tablets, and even before looking at them, I'll be honest with you. Most of them will be convinced if I give the tablet to them for 5 minutes and say, try it, and they will see the benefits.
You identified some of the benefits of, you identified the pattern, obviously it applies to the tablet, facing your learner. Well, I mean, I guess you could come up with a counterpoint to benefits of the whiteboard. And one which I've had relayed to me is the theatrics of the big space.
Yes.
And do you perceive that as from your colleagues that they feel constrained by the tablet, its physical size? And
yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, when I started, that was my main concern about using it. Because I will be standing here like this, writing like that. I will hold it in my hand, and I will not do the big gestures. On the other hand, I always face the students, and that's an advantage. And I think for me the benefits outweigh the disadvantages. But that's something to keep in mind. What I will do essentially is sometimes I will then leave it away, and I will come back to pointing just to make these big gestures.